Interestingly enough, when I was in deacon school, a little joke because, we all need a little levity today, right? When I was in deacon school, I had a deacon tell me that it's amazing. You want to get a group of Catholics to be quiet and pay attention? You just say in a loud voice, "In the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit." And you'd be amazed how quiet a group of Catholics will get. They will all be quiet, and they'll all turn like this to whoever's speaking, layperson or not. So remember that if you're ever trying to quiet a group anywhere. That's a great little hint, okay? So, I'm here tonight to talk to you about Lent and the Saints. I'm going to save the Saints till the end of it, okay? So we're going to talk about Lent, okay? So it's a big subject, and where do we start? Well, we'll first start with, what is Lent? That's a nice question, right? What is Lent? Lent is a 40-day period prior to Easter where we prepare for God's death, resurrection, and his passion. Okay? It's marked by a period of fasting, prayer, and almsgiving, and other acts of penance. I like to think of this as a period for us to empty our hearts of everything that's bothering us, to prepare it for God to fill it up. So it's a period that's what I like to think of. It's 40 days because 40 days is a nice round number. Number 40 shows up a lot in scriptures, because the Israelites were in the wilderness for 40 years. Just means a really long time. And that's what the 40 days means. It's just a really long time. Okay? But it also mimics the 40 days that Jesus spent in the wilderness. Okay? After he was baptized, we remember from Matthew, the book of Matthew, although I don't know if we've been through the wilderness move yet. I think it's coming up maybe this weekend or next. Matthew 4, the baptism by John, after he got baptized by John the Baptist, he was led into the wilderness by the Holy Spirit. And while he was in the wilderness, he was tempted by Satan. The temptation was to give up his divinity and worship Satan. Why, if you give up and you worship me, I'll give you the world. Oh, you're hungry. If you give up, I'll feed you with the best of foods. You can have anything you want. If you all you have to do is jump off this wall, and if you're truly God, you won't die because you'll just fall and you'll get up and move. Okay? These are various temptations that were done to emulate the temptations that we receive as humans. The temptations of gluttony, temptations of riches, of gaining riches and wealth, of being invincible. And what Jesus is teaching us through all these in every one of his responses. No, you don't tempt God. No, I have God on my side. He will feed me. He will take care of me. So that's what the 40 days are to emulate. It's to remind us that that's what we do. Any questions about what Lent is? Because that's basically what Lent is. It's a period of fasting and preparing ourselves for when Jesus dies and then comes back to life and fills us with his love. And you guys will see that firsthand at the Easter Vigil. But I'll save that for later. Anything else?
Maybe you could touch on the fasting piece, because sometimes people say...
I'm going to hit that later.
Oh, good, okay.
Oh, trust me, I'll go through that. I got a lot to go with.
Okay,
I'm just going on what is Lent.
Yeah.
Okay? So, if we understand what Lent is, basically, we'll move to the next thing. The traditions of Lent, the little T traditions, because you have big T and little T traditions, okay? The first thing you will notice that as we enter Lent, and I love that we got color wheel up here, we go to purple. Why purple? Because purple is a sign of penance. It's what the church uses for penance. When you go to reconciliation, the priest will have a purple stole on, because that is a sign of penance. It's a sign of you giving penance and him receiving it through him to give to God. So we wear purple, okay? Now, there's one Sunday in there we don't wear purple, of course, Laetare Sunday, because just like we had during Advent, which is also a penitential season, you have one Sunday in there where you're happy about God's love, so you want to celebrate it. We do the same thing. There's one Sunday called Laetare Sunday, fourth Sunday of Lent, I believe. And Laetare, of course, is a nice Latin word that means rejoice. And it's to remind us that even though we're penitent, we still have to be happy that we're children of God. So they give us one Sunday to help remember that, where we wear our rose-colored vestments again, okay? Even though they look really strangely pink to me. I'm not going to argue about that, okay? So that's the colors you'll see, and that's how you'll know you're in a time of penitence. Wherever you see them wearing purple, you'll know that it's a penitent time. There are also some feast days that fall during Lent where we wear white sometimes, depending on the day and when it falls. The two biggest ones are the Feast of St. Joseph, which this year happens on March 20th, which is a Saturday, and what's the other one? The Annunciation of the Lord on March 26th. These are greater feast days, and they trump the wearing of purple. Now, you're still in Lent, so you still got to follow the Lenten fast that we'll talk about later, okay? And you still have to do your penances. But we wear white because, once again, we celebrate these saints, okay? So, like everything else, there's always I got you on this, so there's always something different that happens, okay? A lot of times they'll transfer that date to a Sunday, and then we'll wear purple all the way through on a lot of the feast days, okay? So when does Lent start? That's a good question, right? Lent starts with Ash Wednesday. Ash Wednesday this year is February 22nd, 1 week from tonight, in fact, okay? I had a question earlier about when can you receive ashes, because one of the things about ashes, we start off our Lenten fasting and our Lenten time by receiving ashes. This is an ages old. In fact, it goes back into the beginning of some of the earliest chapters of Genesis talk about people putting on sackcloths and covering themselves in ashes to show they're sorry. So we put the ashes on your forehead, the symbol of a cross, to show that we are penitent, okay? And a lot of people I know will get them at 6:30 in the morning and then come back at 7 to get them again because they wore off during the day, okay? I know you'll see a lot of people walking around on Ash Wednesday you'll be like, you got some on your forehead. Oh, you're Catholic. You'd be amazed how much I heard that. But nonetheless, we offer ashes at 6:30 a.m., 8:30 a.m., 12:15 p.m. Then we have a ceremony at 4:15. That's just a ceremony, though, and we have all the PSR kids there to get their ashes at that time. And then, of course, we'll have the 7 p.m., which I highly encourage you to come to so that I have someone to put ashes on, because I get to come to the 7 p.m. to get mine. Yes?
Do only Catholics get ashes, or can
No.
anybody?
Excellent lead into my next comment. Who can receive the ashes? Who can receive the ashes? Anybody who wants them. Any religion, any faith, any age. If they ask for ashes, we give it to them because it's not a sacrament, okay? So we give them to all because it is a symbol that you're being penitent. That's all it is. And we put them on everyone. I don't even ask. They come up, I give them the ashes, okay? And I've done little kids, people you wouldn't give a communion wafer to, you're giving them the ashes because they get it. I put them on babies, okay? So anybody can receive the ashes. Now I jumped ahead. Oh, so there's my question, who could receive? Perfect time, and I gave you the time. So, let's jump to that big thing. Lenten is a period of sacrifice, so we have sacrificing. But what exactly is a sacrifice? A sacrifice is when you give something up that means something to you, okay? Now, I joke with people that, a lot of people could say that they gave their cocaine habit up for Lent. Because let's face it, most of us don't have a cocaine habit, so it's something easy to give up. You want to give up something that means something to you, and that every time you reach for it, you say, oh yeah, I'm not doing that because it's Lent and I'm giving it up to God. Okay? Now, for all the catechumens and candidates in here, I would recommend starting small. Something easy, Let's face it, you don't run a marathon the day after you take your first run around the block, right? So start something small. I would recommend something simple, like saying a prayer. Say a Hail Mary every day. Say the Come Holy Spirit every day. Pick a time of the day when you can do it. Give up 5 minutes in prayer to say a prayer, okay? Something simple. It's easy. But when you do it, schedule yourself a time. I'm going to do it at 4:30 every day. And at 4:30 every day, no matter what you're doing, no matter what's on TV, no matter what's cooking, turn everything off, you sit down, you pray, you put it back, you go back to doing it. And you remind yourself that you're doing this for your love of God, okay? Because that's what a sacrifice means, okay? Now, for the non-catechumens candidates, all you good Catholics out there, let's give something up meaningful this year. The standard stuff we give up, alcohol, chocolate, television, phones. Some people give up games. They're addicted to games on their computer. So they give up something that means something to them. And they spend that time doing something else. Praying, almsgiving, helping the sick, going out and helping other people. That way you can be a part of the Catholic faith. Okay? Some ideas, some of the better Catholic, some of the better Lenten sacrifices I've made. I resolved to go to Mass every day. And you don't know how challenging that is until you resolve to go to Mass every day of Lent. That is, including Saturdays. That's the one I had the hardest problem with. Because you just want to sleep in. You don't want to get up and go to Mass, but you get up and go to Mass on every day. That's what I had trouble with. Okay? Oh, I don't admit it. I'm not perfect. let's cover that. We all fail at our sacrifices from time to time. It happens. Okay? So what do you do when you fail? You don't give up. You resolve to do better. That's all you do. Just start it up again. You don't have to go to the priest to confess, forgive me, Father, for I have sinned. I promised to give up chocolate, and I had a Hershey's bar. No, that's not a sin. But it is something that you want to try to redouble your efforts. Double down on it and do better. Okay? Another idea is to give up time. One year, my daughter and I resolved to pray the rosary every night. And that we found to be hard too, because I'd have to take her away from her homework, which she didn't really mind. But, that's not the best thing to do. But we prayed the rosary together every night for the entire period of Lent. Any questions about sacrificing? Because we're going to move on to more things. Yes?
I was just going to say, one of my most meaningful Lents was when I realized I was going through drive-through coffee every day. And I realized that I was thinking about it okay, where am I going to, and so just ending that habit gave me so much freedom. And I realized I have no business spending this money. It's the things that have a grip on you and breaking that. And then God just filled me up with so much other, I could see that it was a really shallow thing, but I felt like I needed that to get through my day. So that was just one small example, but you have a problem when everyone gives you a gift card to a certain place for coffee for your birthday, and you realize you were thinking about it, you were talking about it, and so that one led. So maybe it's as simple as I won't go through that drive-through,
Yes.
and then do good things with your money as well, which places like that are expensive.
Yeah, I was waiting for the question about the 40 days of Lent, and yet we have 6 weeks. Most of us can do math. 6 times 7 is 42. That's more than 40, right? So how do you get to 40 days of Lent when you've got 6.5 weeks of days, right? And it's because Sundays really aren't part of Lent. Sunday is God's day. It's the day we have reserved to give to Him. So they don't count the Sundays as part of your Lenten sacrifice. So you take those out, and then you go from, I think you go from 47, from 47 to 41 from that. And then you got some confusion because of when does it actually begin when does it begin and when does it end? Because it ends on Holy Thursday, which is the Thursday before Easter at sundown. So because our early Christians were actually Jews, as we all know. Everyone came from a Jewish root. Jesus was a Jewish carpenter, right? Their day started at sundown. So sundown to sundown was a day. So you've got sundown through the dawn, through the day to sundown. That's what their day was. So their day really didn't end and really didn't start until sundown. So when you count the days, it's 40. Okay? And I sat through this year and actually counted them up, and I kept coming up with 40 and said, but does this day really count? Yeah, I guess it does. I mean, you got to think about it, okay? The idea is that there's a 40-day period where you sacrifice for 40 days. Now, most Catholics keep up their fast on Sundays, okay? My wife being one of those good Catholics, she's one of those good cradle Catholics, and when I was experiencing my first Lent, of course, being the rule monger that I am, because, I am an engineer, I said, oh, it's Sunday, we can go out and have whatever we want, right? And she's like, no, it's Lent. We can't do that. It's Lent. I mean, but it's Sunday. This is not part of Lent. And I got to stare. So we didn't do any of that, and I've now realized that the best thing to do is not to ask questions and to maintain your fast through the Sundays of Lent. Okay? Even though it may not be technically accurate. Okay? Okay, we're going to move out of sacrificing because we'll ask you to sacrifice. That's a tradition of Lent, to sacrifice something, to fast from something. The idea that you give something up. We also have almsgiving. That's one of the aspects of Lent. Remember, it's fasting, almsgiving, and prayer. Those are the 3 things that you're asked to do during Lent. So, almsgiving. What do we mean by almsgiving? Could be more than giving money. You don't have to give money to the homeless person at the end of the stoplight. You don't have to donate to a homeless shelter or to a battered women's shelter. You could give your time. That's just as valuable as your money. Think about volunteering at a homeless shelter or volunteering at a battered women's shelter, or call the Columbus Parks and Rec and see if they have any volunteering that you can fulfill. They're always looking for people to walk around parks and pick up trash. Okay? I know because we do it as a company every 3 months. So they're always looking for that. So there's always some way for you to give back. You can always think of different ways to give back. Okay? And when you give up, when you alms give, you're giving up more than just your money. Think of something that's valuable to you. And what's more valuable than your time, right? Then let's get to the good part. The abstinence and the fasting, the food issues. This is always a fun one for people, okay? We'll start with the abstinence first because it's easier. Abstinence is an ancient custom whereby we don't consume meat on certain days. Now, what do we consider meat? There's actually a good, somewhere there's a definition that it's anything with a cloven hoof and doesn't have scales. But even that's not a perfect one. So basically, think most beef, chicken, pork, and most wild game that you'll get are considered meat. So what is on the schedule? Fish. That's why you'll see a lot of fish sandwiches are coming back right now. They're getting ready for all us Catholics to be driving through McDonald's and getting a fish sandwich on Fridays. Okay? Yeah, you might laugh about it, but it's true. You'll see that they'll be off the menu probably about a week or two after Easter when they run out of product. Okay? But that's what we mean. Now, when do we have this abstinence? We have it during Ash Wednesday. We ask you not to eat meat on Ash Wednesday. We ask you not to eat on Good Friday. Have an abstinence on Good Friday. And we ask you to do it on all the Fridays of Lent. Now, we all took a calendar, right? Because one of the good things about the calendar is it actually has the symbols on here that'll tell you that you can no meat here. It's got a fish symbol. And here it's a dark fish symbol, meaning no food. We'll talk about that next. In fact, if you want to clear on this, on the very back cover, abstinence and fasting. Actually gives you a guideline here inside your calendar. That isn't the most helpful thing. One of the great things about getting a Catholic calendar. Okay? It actually tells you everything. Also shows you the colors of the season, which is also kind of cool. I use that a lot to remember what color to dress. Okay? So let's talk about fasting. Fasting is a good one. We ask fasting on pretty much Fridays throughout. So who fasts? Everybody between 18 years of age and 59 inclusive. So until you turn 60, you got to fast. And once you turn 18, you have to fast. Now, I would recommend not telling your teenager that. Your food bill really saves a lot. Okay? You can tell them, oh no, you're old enough, you got to fast now. They'll argue with you, but that's why you're mom and dad. Right? But that's who has to do it. The rules on fasting. One meal, fair-sized meal. Let's not do a 14-course dinner here, okay? One fair meal, good-sized meal. And then 2 other meals as needed to maintain your strength that together do not equal the size of your one full meal. Okay? That's what's considered a fast. No snacking, no food in between, just 3 times you eat. Now, luckily, and you'll be happy, luckily, if you have a medical condition, such as pregnancy, where you need to eat to maintain the health of your child or your health, eat. Fasting does not apply to you anymore. This also applies to diabetics, people who have to keep their blood sugar at a certain level. They have to eat. They're allowed to eat. However, they are asked to try to minimize it on these days. Don't go overboard and eat just what you need to be able to minimize for your health, okay, and the health of whatever condition you have, okay? Also, I said that you can have 1 meal and 2 small meals. Remember that a milkshake and a Frosty really don't count as liquids, because you can drink as many liquids as you want. You can drink as much tea as you want, thankfully. That was probably one of the more challenging fasts. I decided to do a sun up to sundown fast. So I wouldn't eat from dawn to dusk. And that was really hard because, boy, at the end of the day, I was really hungry. And I'm like watching that clock saying, okay, it's dusk, let's eat, because that was tough for me. I like my food, in case you never noticed that. So that's kind of what we're looking at on fasting and abstinence. Any questions about this? Yes?
What days were the fasting?
18 to 59.
No, what days of Monday?
Oh, what days? Fridays.
Okay, so the same days that the no meat applies to.
No meat applies on Fridays and Good Friday and fasting. No, that's wrong, isn't it? Fasting is just on Good Friday. You got me all confused here. Yeah, let's look it up. I better grab these because I'll never be able to read this small print. Fasting is to be observed by all Catholics between the ages 18 and 15. Ash Wednesday, Good Friday, 1 full meal, 2 smaller meals. So you're right, I had it backwards. Fasting is only on Ash Wednesday and Good Friday. Abstinence is on all the days. Okay? So you really only have to fast 2 days. Ash Wednesday, Good Friday. Okay? I had it backwards. I will correct that. Like I said, that's why I have the calendar. It's a great resource. Any other questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
I remember I was at an event one time and it was not a Catholic event and they served me like a steak, you know what I mean? And it was, I think it was like a rehearsal dinner or something, and it was, they didn't have an alternative at the time. Is there a cultural piece to the fasting that like if it causes more attention to you or, you know what I mean? Like I can't remember. I thought there was some instruction on situations like that.
There is a, the idea is not to bring scandal, you know? The idea is not to prove to people, oh, I can't eat that, I'm Catholic, you know? But what you try to do is you try to plan ahead. Did you get invited to a dinner on Friday? Ask them, will you be serving meat or will you have a non-meat option for me? And these days, right now, with so many vegans and so many vegetarians, it's really easy usually to get a vegetarian meal, which would be no meat. You may not get fish, but at least you'll not do meat, okay? So you don't have to bring focus on the fact that you're Catholic. Now, you're more than welcome to do it, but most people get very uncomfortable saying that to non-Catholics. And it leads to a lot of questions with non-Catholics. Good catechism, but, you know, some people just aren't prepared for it. Yes?
What's like the historical reason for the no meat? Is there, like, where did that start?
Meat, okay. Meat back in early times, back in Jesus' times, the early 100s, 200s, meat was really something that was reserved for the royalty. It's something that was really special, okay? You think about when in the prodigal son, they come home and they've killed the fatted calf and they're having a meal, they're having a big celebration, because they wouldn't necessarily have fresh meat every day. Okay, they might have meat, but it may not have been a fresh meat or meat in general, a lot of meat. So by giving it up, you're giving up something that's really special. Okay, that's really the reason. There's a lot of, if you go online, you can read a lot online. Okay, the book of Google will tell you a lot of things. Don't believe half of it, remember? It's online, it had to be true. They'll go through theories that say, well, it was all done by the fishermen who said, we're losing money, the Catholic Church's got to help us out, because we eat fish one day a week. Oh, we'll do it during Lent, everyone has to eat fish and we'll keep our fishermen in business. Nah. Has nothing to do that. It has everything to do with the fact that it's a way of giving something up that is a luxury to you, having meat. Okay? Another way of showing penance, another fast, you're giving up something that could be very beneficial. Okay? But once again, fasting, the rules of fasting and the rule of abstinence apply to those who are ill or have medical conditions. So you're covered this year. So that's all you got to do. Get pregnant for every Lent, right? Sorry, writing a note down here. Oh, I did not talk about the abstinence. Who needs to abstain from having meat? That's 14 years of age or older. So on Fridays, if you're 14 or older, see, this is where you get your kid. It's 14 years or older. You got to abstain and fast. And you can carry that all through all the Fridays and say, oh, no. Okay? Yes?
Did that change? Because
Yeah.
as a kid, my parents never let us, like, they just,
No, we always
Never.
we never eat meat.
no.
No.
If we
No.
were
See? It works.
little or not.
It works.
We
It
didn't
works.
eat meat on Christmas Eve either.
Yeah.
Polish Slovak Italians, you don't eat meat on Christmas Eve either.
Well,
And I thought that was all Catholics, and my mother-in-law served meat on Christmas Eve, like right before we were gonna get married. And I said to my husband, I go, I can't eat that, I'm Catholic. He goes, well, we're Catholic too, my parents are a discussion group and all of that. And Eve. That was another one, you just never did.
Oh, no, there's a lot of, in fact, the idea of fasting, of the abstinence on Fridays is carried through by a lot of different groups. The Catholic men's group, when they meet on Fridays, the first Friday of the month out of St. Patrick, you're getting a meat-free meal because they don't eat meat. A lot of monasteries, they will not serve meat during Fridays. I mean, it's just a way, it's a way of giving something up to God. Is it a rule? Is it a hard and fast rule? No. And the 14 years old, that's always been in Code of Canon Law. So that's been there since the first canon law, which was what, 1939? Was first U.S. canon law? Okay? But like I said, if the parents tell you, just go ahead, you have to fast too, you don't question, you just do it. It's when they turn 14 and they get religion school and then they realize that it's really 14 years old and they go, you lied to us. I didn't lie to you, I made you a better Catholic.
So are those rules different in other parts of the world then?
Yes, it is. In fact, it's different from country to country. Sometimes it will be different from diocese to diocese. Everybody knows Chicago, St. Patty's Day, right? St. Patty's Day sometimes will fall during Lent. And a lot of good Catholics in Chicago like to give up alcohol for their Lenten fast. Well, then St. Patty's Day hits, and all them good Irish Catholics petition their bishop to lift the fasting requirement for them on that day. And I think the Diocese of Chicago usually does. I think New York does. Columbus does not. We've never got it successfully
But
passed.
St. Patrick's has a huge celebration.
But St. Patrick's isn't part of the diocese.
Oh, that's a good point, okay.
So
if you
they
go
don't.
there-
They don't have to follow the diocesan rule. You can go there, but when you go there, you got to remember, you're still a member of the diocese. So you have to follow the diocesan rules, even though they don't.
They are not part of the diocese.
They're not officially part because they're part of the
Dominicans.
they're part of the Dominican order. So their church is
They have
run.
a huge party, like celebration and mass and treats and drinks.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, when I say they're not part of it, they do. The bishop has a link to them, but he can't tell them, you can't say this mass and you can't do that, because they're really part of the Dominican order. Okay? He doesn't assign the priests who serve at St. Patrick.
Why do Chicagoans need if it's food, so they can eat while they drink?
It's so that they can drink, because so many of them give up alcohol as their Lenten fast.
Okay, got it.
They just ask for that Lenten observance.
Got it, okay.
Can you lift Lent on this day? And the Diocese of Chicago, the bishop's a smart man, and said, if I say no, they're going to do it anyway, so I might as well say yes and look like a good guy. Keep the Catholics happy, so to speak. Like I said, there's a lot of places that ask for it, and a lot of places that don't get it. Columbus, we always ask for it, and it always gets denied. Although we haven't had one with Bishop Fernandez's new sheriff in town, as they say. Boston usually doesn't get it either, and that has an incredibly high Irish Catholic. Anybody who's ever been there knows that it's a lot of Irish Catholics in Boston. So it's by diocese. And even the dates, I don't know, if you remember back when I was talking about the feast days are set by the country. So the USCCB, the United States Council of Catholic Bishops, set which feast days are going to be observed in the U.S. Now there are some days that are non-arbitrary. Christmas and Easter are non-arbitrary. And Palm Sunday, you got to do those. But the Annunciation of Mary, all the rest of them are arbitrary. In Mexico, the Saint Guadalupe, the feast of Saint Guadalupe, is a holy day of obligation. Okay, because that's where it happened. Okay, we do not see it as a holy day of obligation, but in other countries they do. So a lot of countries will have different feast days, and they all have a little bit of guidelines on how they can celebrate their Lenten observances. Okay? Questions? Comments? Good questions, good comments. I hate sitting up here just talking to myself. Okay. That's really all I had about Lent. Well, I did want to go a little bit into Holy Week, which is the final week of Lent, and the special observances that happen during this week. Okay? So Holy Week begins with Palm Sunday, which is the day Jesus entered into Jerusalem, and everybody laid palms down and welcomed him as a hero. The ironic part of it is that 6 days later, they're nailing him to a cross. That's the ironic part. Okay? So it begins with Palm Sunday, which, as I mentioned, we have a great big celebration. We actually wear red on that day. If you remember why we wear red on feast days or celebrations of a martyr. Okay? If you died in your doing stuff for God, you become a martyr, and you wear red clothes to recognize that death. If you just died normally and then became saint, we wear white to recognize your sainthood. Okay? So for Mary, we wear white, typically with a blue, but we wear white. And for Jesus, we wear red because he was martyred. Okay? So that celebrates that. We then continue throughout the week. Holy Monday, Holy Tuesday, Holy Wednesday, Holy Thursday, Good Friday, and finally, Good or Holy Saturday, followed by the Easter Vigil. Okay? That's Holy Week. So, Monday, we really don't do anything in the Diocese of Columbus to celebrate it. We just remember it's Holy Monday. On the Holy Tuesday, though, we have the Chrism Mass. And I'm sure you're going to bring this up to him as it comes closer. I believe the Chrism Mass has been scheduled at St. Paul again, because it's really the only place big enough to hold the diocese anymore. But during the Chrism Mass, the bishop will consecrate all the different oils that are used in the celebrations throughout the year. Okay, the oil of chrism, oil of salvation, chrism oil, salvation. What am I forgetting? There's 3 of them, and I can't remember. You'd think I'd remember them. I don't have them written down here. But there's 3 oils. Catechumen, thank you. Which are those are the 3 oils that they use that he blesses, okay? Now, most of them he just says a prayer over and sends a cross over. The chrism oil is the one he actually mixes and breathes on. Once again, we remember the breath of God formed the world. The breath of God was given to Adam to create life. The breath is also used to create everything. It's his form of creation. And since our bishop, bless you, since our bishop is persona in Christi, he's in the person of Christ, he does the creation of the blessing in creating the chrism oil. You'll get to know the chrism oil very well because you will be anointed with it. It's one of the oils used at confirmation. It's a very fragrant oil. It's beautiful smelling. Okay? So that's Holy Tuesday. That'll be, I think it's usually like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. They do it. It is when he starts the ceremony. Okay? And he'll do the ceremony, and then all the priests are there because they all get their oils for that week, for the celebration starting that Saturday. And it's really a beautiful Mass. If you've never been to one, I recommend you go to at least one to see it. Okay? And this is a good year because they're catechumens. You can take them with you or your candidate and show them that ceremony. Okay? Then you have Holy Wednesday, which is kind of a blah day because we really don't do anything like Holy Monday, except we do remember, like it is the Holy Week. And then you go to what's known as, we start in with the Churin one, with Holy Thursday. Holy Thursday, the big thing that shows up there is the washing of the feet. We remember that when Jesus came to the Good Supper, he washed the disciples' feet, because there's no lower job that a person could do in a household than to be the person that washes the dust off the feet of the people who came to dinner. That was left to the lowest of all people, the lowest servant. So he's becoming the servant for you. He, at St. Andrew, we typically pick 12 people and have them sit in a chair, and then we wash one foot. We ask that person to take off their shoes and sock, and Monsignor comes around and he washes your foot. And we assist him by pouring the water and holding everything across, because this is his servant back to his parish. Okay? Once again, an incredibly beautiful ceremony. The whole Holy Week are some of the most beautiful liturgies you will ever experience. And then we have the Good Friday celebration. Notice I said celebration and not Mass. It is the one day of the year when the host is not consecrated. Because this is the day Jesus died and descended to hell. So he left the earth, and we celebrate that by not calling him back on this day, on Good Friday. Now, we offer Mass. We will offer a ceremony where we will leftover any leftover hosts. And typically we will do quite a few hosts on Thursday, so we have enough for everyone who's going to come to Good Friday ceremonies. Okay? But the other big thing that you'll see at the Good Friday Mass is it's begun by all the clergy coming in and prostrating themselves on the floor in front of the altar. Once again, giving homage to God. Okay? Part of our ordination is we have to lay on the carpet in front of the altar, because we just don't bow. We completely give ourselves up. And we replicate that every year on Good Friday at the beginning of the service. And then we come up and we have the celebration. As part of the celebration, we wash feet. We also have the adoration of the altar. Since we're not having a Mass, we will bring the cross out, and we give everyone a chance to come up and bow before it. Pre-COVID, it was common for everyone to kiss the feet of the altar. Okay, but since COVID, we don't do that anymore. In fact, most people just come up and they might touch it and bow reverently. Some people kneel, and some people will stay there for a second or two and say a prayer. Okay, but it's about being reverent to the cross and showing, recognizing what he did for us today. We also repeat the Passion. I forgot to mention, on Palm Sunday, we do the Passion reading. And it's long. It's usually very long. It's one of the longest readings you'll hear in a church. Okay? The Passion reading on Good Friday is from John's Gospel. The Passion reading on Sunday is from the Gospel of the Year. This year we'll read Matthew's Passion. Okay? But Good Friday is always John's Gospel. And then we come to Good Saturday, to Holy Saturday, followed by the Easter Vigil. Now you'll find out more about what happens on Easter Vigil. But remember that it's sundown to sundown. So at sundown, the Easter Vigil starts at sundown. So you're already into Saturday. You're already into Sunday when we start the vigil. And that will be the ceremony wherein all of you will be baptized and brought into the church fully. And I'm not going to give away anything else, because I was awestruck when I went through it. Yes?
I just got a memo today that the bishop has approved for our ceremony to begin at 8 o'clock.
Yep.
Verse 8:30, based on the sign, the time of the sun.
Yes.
So does that, I'm sure you, so the vigil will begin at 8.
Okay. Yeah, I've had them start, the latest one, I think the latest day you can have it is April 11th. I want to say is the latest day Easter comes. We all know when Easter comes, right? We all remember the formula. It's the first Sunday after the first Friday of the vernal equinox. If that isn't set by Jews, what is it? Right? But that's how you set it. You first got to have the first full moon. It's the first Sunday after the first full moon after the vernal equinox. So it moves from March 8th to April 11th, I think, are the dates it moves from, somewhere in that range. Every year it's different because it's lunar calendar based. So it once again harkens back to our Jewish roots, which has a lunar calendar. Okay? Yes?
So it starts at 8, what time does it go till, the visual?
Until you're all baptized. Until you're all confirmed. Like I said, when I went through this program, we had 21 candidates and catechumens, and the ceremony didn't end until 12:30. It's long. Last year, I think we had about the same many last year. Chris is not here to point out. I think we had about the same many. It was about 2.5 to 3 hours. Okay. It moves at a good pace, but it is a long. It's one of the longest masses celebrations you'll go to. You get to hear the Exultet, which is a special prayer that is sung. Okay? Fortunately for you, I don't sing it because, and you'll praise me for that because I don't sing well. And it's left to the deacon's option as to whether they want to sing the Exultet. And it is a long prayer, probably a good 5.5, 6 minutes. And if you have a clergy do it, they actually have an extra 2 paragraphs they can add to the Exultet that can't be added by a layperson. So sometimes you'll go to it and you'll say, boy, that seemed longer than normal. It's because, unless our seminarian decides to sing it, I'm trying to talk him into it. Okay? Just to let you know. He has a good voice. Okay?
Well, and it starts in the dark, right?
Starts in the dark, and as you, like I said, I was going to leave all this, but it starts in the dark, and as you reveal more and sing more about the coming light of Christ, the lights come up in the church because the light is arriving. Like I said, there's all kind of symbolism and things that happen. As you go through it, you'll just be amazed. It is truly beautiful. And I'll leave that for your practice, because you'll want to go through the whole Easter Vigil at your practice, because that's when you learn about it all, and you'll be like awestruck the next day when you actually see it happen. Well, that's all I had on Lent, the Lenten season. Any questions, comments, anything whatsoever? Yes?
Did you do anything with the Stations of the Cross?
Oh, thank you. Yes, we do Stations of the Cross on Friday. One way to pray. I forgot to mention it because you guys took me out of my rhythm here of reading from the paper. Good job, by the way. One of the things we do to offer everyone a chance to pray during Lent is we offer the Stations of the Cross, 7:30 every Friday. The Stations of the Cross, for those who don't know, the Way of the Cross, is a prayer ceremony with 14 different stations that describe Jesus' journey from being arrested to being put in a tomb. And there's 14 stations, and in each one you have a chance to say a prayer and to reflect on what was done. The whole whipping, the scourging, the carrying of the cross, the falling, the meeting of the women, the being nailed to the cross. It's led by Deacon Berg and I. We alternate as deacons have taken on ourselves to lead that. It's followed by exposition of the Blessed Sacrament, so you can actually spend time with Jesus before you leave. And then usually we do it 7:30, somewhere around 9 o'clock. One of the priests gratefully stay, and they do the benediction and the reposition of Christ. So, but you get a little bit of a chance to pray. Thank you for reminding me. That's a great thing to do. I did it for a long time before I became a deacon. I love the prayer and going through it. Any other questions, comments about Lent? If anything comes up, stop by one of the clergy after Mass and say, what exactly are we doing here? Okay? You've got our emails, you've got our phone numbers. Well, you may have our phone numbers, but you at least have our email. Send us an email and say, hey, I got questions about this. Can I do this? Is this right or is this wrong? Okay? Yes?
Is Lent specific to Catholicism? I feel like when I grew up, my parents weren't really anything, but I would kind of try to do Lent because some of my friends would, and
Yep.
is it originated from Catholicism, or as a Protestant faith, always made Lent a thing too?
No, it actually stemmed from Catholicism. This was way before the Protestant Reformation happened with the bulletin on the door of Wittenberg Church in Germany. But it is a Catholic tradition that a lot of our Protestant brothers have adopted and maintained. Okay, it's like the church right there by the Upper Arlington police station, right there at I can't even think, Kenny and Tremont,
Yeah.
right? Advent Lutheran. Just like Advent is not really it's not really a totally Catholic. Lent isn't either. There's a lot of different Protestant faiths do it. Deacon Berg, as the chancellor, gets a lot of calls this weekend and next week, and a lot of calls after Ash Wednesday, asking how to make the ashes. Because a lot of our Protestant brethren will take the water. Okay, where do the ashes come from? Do you know where we get our ashes from? We take the last year's Palm Sundays and we burn them and we make a fine powder out of them. Okay? Because I take my palm home with me, and I have a cross at home up near my desk. I put it around the cross. So I'm reminded every day of Palm Sunday. Okay? And that's a big Catholic tradition too. There's a thing online, you can make a cross out of it if you're really crafty enough. I was never really crafty enough to do that, so I just put it on a loop and hang it behind it, right? But we have ashes, so a lot of our Protestant brethren will take the ashes and add water to them, mix it up and put them on their forehead. Does anybody know what happens when you mix ashes with water?
Mud.
No, it's not mud.
They don't separate, they separate?
No, it's called lye. It's an acid. And they would put it on the forehead of their people, and it would burn. And in some place, and sometimes it has scarred the forehead of their people. How do we make it? Olive oil. We pour olive oil on them. Now we sprinkle it with water, but the amount of water that gets in there isn't enough to do anything. But yeah, it's olive oil, which has no problem whatsoever. It doesn't create any acid or base or whatsoever to create a problem. But every year, Deacon Berg, as being the chancellor, would get the call from, the 14th Church of Jerusalem to God, which I make fun of all these different church names that I see with my Protestant brethren, because what's the second Church of Baptists? Where's the first? Why don't I go to the first one? Why am I going to the second one? And is there a third? But anyway, I'm digressing there. He gets all these questions from these Protestant people asking him, how do I make this? Or, what happened? What did I do wrong? What do I do to fix this? Send him to the emergency room. Put some water on it, Put some olive oil. Get some aloe. Maybe you can hold the scarring back to just barely notice it. Yeah. He told me that story, and I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. And he goes, no, I get them every year. I'm like, you gotta, really? Every year? And he goes, yeah, every year I get calls. So that's part of being the chancellor. You got to deal with that. So you guys will not have to deal with it because we use olive oil to make the ashes to spread on your forehead. It does itch though. I mean, it is dirt. I used to get them at 6:30 in the morning, and usually right about noon you're up there and you're going, because you don't want to scratch it and smudge it worse. So you reach up and you go, no, I don't want to scratch. I'll scratch the back of my head because that helps. It just moves the itching to somewhere else, right? Any other comments, questions about Lent?
When you receive, is there something special that you're supposed to say then when you do receive the ashes on your?
Amen. That's it. There's nothing special. Like I said, it's not a sacrament. It's not a holy day of obligation. Ash Wednesday is not a holy day of obligation. But we see more people sometimes at Ash Wednesday than we do at Easter. Okay? In fact, sometimes we see more than we do at Christmas. Because everybody thinks it's a holy day of obligation. I gotta do it. It's really not a holy day. It's a good idea. It's a great way to start your Lenten fast. It's a great way to remind yourself you're being penitent. That this is something you want to remember. Yes? No question?
Oh, no, sorry.
Okay. Yeah, you kind of had it half up in that. It's like, yeah. Okay. There's nothing else on Lent. We have one more quick thing we need to talk about. What time we got? We got 8 o'clock. I'm going
In
to try to
30
beat.
minutes, yeah, we're good.
I'm going to try to beat Monsignor's time here. Believe that? We need to talk about the saints. Now, I've pretty much given you all the information on saints when we talked about Mary, because we had a fairly in-depth discussion about saints. Who are the saints? The saints are people who emulated Christ's love through their devotion in their life. And we believe through the working of miracles that they have been assumed into heaven. We have no proof of it, but we think they are. And the working of the miracles is what we consider our proof. The miracles are looked at by 2 different groups, one trying to disprove it, one trying to prove it. They report to a third body who makes a decision on what the findings were and verify or discredit those miracles. So it's really hard to get the miracles approved. Okay? That's why it used to take hundreds of years to get proved that it was a miracle. Okay? Recently there have been some rather fast-track saints being made. JP2 being one of them. About 3 years. And I think Saint Teresa of Calcutta, Mother Teresa, she was made a saint very quickly after her death. But there were quite a few miracles that were attributed to her. And like I said, proving them is very, very, very hard. I'm glad I'm not on that committee. Glad I'm not asked to be on that committee because I'm very much of a cynic like most other people. And I would disprove it very quickly. You'd have to prove that there was absolutely no way, and you had to be praying to that saint. Okay? But that's why I said that's how you make a saint. So, that's who the saints are. Interestingly enough, and this is something I always like to remind people at my baptisms, when I do baptisms, I always start it off by saying, okay, people, I'm here to make 3 saints. Because by our baptismal promises, we're called to go to heaven. To go to heaven, you're a saint. That's all it takes to be a saint. Be good enough to get to heaven. So you don't have to be extra holy to be a saint. You just have to have a good life that you show God's love. Okay? Now, having said that, the saints, why do we make a big deal out of the saints? Because the saints are people who we believe have already emulated Christ and are a way, they give us kind of a pathway to get to God also. Okay? So if we can do what they did, if they made it, we can make it, right? That's the idea. So you try to follow their lead. There are a bunch of saints. There's over 10,000 saints now in the Catholic Church. And they have everything and anything that you can think of that they're patrons of. Okay? There's a patron of computers. There's a patron for sailors. There's a patron for Army. There's a patron for Marines. There's a different one for all the 4 armed forces. There's a Special Forces patron. I just found out about these recently because I was talking to an Army Ranger, and he was cluing me in on all this. Okay? It's just amazing how many they are. The reason is to give all of you someone that you can emulate, someone you can look up to, and someone you can think, this is someone who really touches me in the way that they live their life, and I want to live my life the same way so that I can get to heaven like they did. So, at your confirmation, you will be asked to choose your saint name. Okay? How do you choose your saint name? Well, luckily for you, I have the concise version of Butler's Life of Saints. Okay? This is a little outdated. It's from 1985. I found it at, I don't even remember where I found this book at. It was at some deacon event, and it was on a table, and they said, take these books, please, we need to get rid of them. And I saw it and said, oh, I'll take that, because RCI needs this, RCIA class. But what it does is it lists a lot of the saints, and it gives you a description of who they were, what they did to become a saint, and what they're patrons of, okay? So, for instance, Saint Germanus, or Saint Germain. Born there, he died in 576. Ordained a priest, happened to be in Paris when he saw that there was no bishop, so he became a bishop. I didn't read it, so I random pick of someone, talk about something odd. After his death, they renamed the church Saint Germain des Prés. Saint died on May 25th, 576 at the age of 28. Okay? He was a bishop of Paris. So it goes through and it tells you he founded the church in Paris basically in the 500s. Okay? And the stuff that he did. Gives you a good baseline to think about who they are and why they did what they did, to give you something to emulate. Okay? I'm going to leave this on the shelf over here, and you guys, if you want to take it home, take it home. All that I ask is, bring it back. Okay? Don't hold it for all the weeks. Give a chance to circulate around people. There's the full version of Butler's Life of the Saints at the UA Main Library. Okay? I have a fairly good, I think I mentioned it, they have a really good Catholic library there. Compared that they're a public library, they have a lot of Catholic books there. Okay, a lot of Catholic reference books. Go and check it out, because the full book, I think there's 3 volumes, and they're each about twice this size, both and thickness. They're huge. Okay. You can also go online and just change and find something you're interested in. Like, we usually have a lot of nurses, patron for nurses, patron for healthcare, patron for doctors. You like to work carpentry, patron for carpentry. You'll find St. Joseph listed under that, I believe.
You can also think about it like your name, like Michael, St. Michael. You might choose something like, or your parents' name or a family name. I chose Anne after the Blessed Mother's mom, so it might even be something that there's a family name, maybe someone that has meaning, that saint, right? It's not that person, but that reminds you of that saint. So.
Yeah. Yes?
Do saints exist from the Old Testament?
Yes. My saint name was Saint Daniel. My name's Daniel. So I picked him because I didn't know that we had to pick one, and I didn't find out until literally the Easter Vigil. What's your saint name? My who? The saint name. You need to pick a saint. Well, is there someone you emulate? And I said, well, I've always connected with Daniel, not just my name, but I liked the way he was. He was very truthful. He always spoke the truth, and he was down to earth. I said, I always respected that in him. I said, well, then there you go. Pick Saint Daniel. So Saint Daniel from the Old Testament is my saint.
So is there a official? Not everybody in the Old Testament's a saint.
Yes, that's Butler's Life of the Saints. Gives you who is a saint. You can go to I think the Vatican website has a list of all the saints. Like I said, there's over 10,000 of them. I don't recommend looking for a name. Start with a name. If you have a name you want to look up, Saint Ivan. Yes, there's a Saint Ivan. Okay, by the way. You could pick Ivan. You want Saint Mary. There's a lot of Marys. Just to let you know, there are a lot of Marys. And there's a lot of different names we use for Mary, Mother of God, for just her. Okay? And then there's the other Marys, bless you also. And we have a lot of other names. Okay? So start thinking don't think about the name in particular. And Once again, if you do it the third time, you're just looking for it, just to let you know. But bless you, Lydia. I always say that there's nothing wrong with taking a female if the female saint is who you emulate, and there's nothing wrong with the female taking a male name if it's something that you want, that really touches you. Okay? It's the saint. That's what you're looking for. You're looking for that path to God, something to help you define Jesus and define God's love. So, any questions about this? Any questions about the saints in general? Yes?
Doctrinally, no one except Mary, Mother of God, is assumed into heaven in bodily form, right? The saints are not.
Yes, Mary, Mother of God, is a saint.
Aside from her, though, the other saints.
Oh yeah, there are others. Well, Mary has other. How do I want to put this? Other appearances. You think about Saint Guadalupe, Our Lady of Guadalupe. That was Mary.
Sorry, I'm not asking my question well. Mary, Mother of God, is assumed in bodily form into heaven, or like in person, right? But the other saints are not. Is that right?
That's an interesting theological question, because yes, they have. Because when you get to heaven, you will be given a body. What that body looks like, we don't know, because we're not there. God will give us a body. Much like Jesus had a body when he was assumed into heaven. Nobody knew what he looked like. You think of all the times that he was walking on the road, and nobody knew what that body looked like. Okay? So yes, you will be given a body.
All right, I got a question of curiosity. So I'm looking at a list of saints, and I'm noticing that archangels pop up every once in a while. So how are the archangels saints?
That's a real tough one to me too. You know? Because they still have properties that you can emulate, you know, to get closer to God. Remember, the idea is to have someone to draw you closer to God. Okay? That's what you're getting with the saint. Is somebody who is with God who draws you closer to him. So Saint Michael the Archangel, okay? Yes, he's an archangel, but he's still a saint because he draws us closer to God. Saint Raphael, Saint Gabriel, same idea. These are the angels that we know of that would bring us closer to God. Obviously, there is no Saint Lucifer, for obvious reasons. He does not draw us closer.
So how do you, I mean, you know, what are the references to emulating an archangel? I mean, I know many of the saints, there's a lot of chronicling of their lives and their sacrifices and their faith. But I mean, with the archangels, I mean, it's a little different, right? Because I mean, like.
Well, yes and no, because you can look at some of the things that they're attributed to. We know that Saint Michael is going to be the defender of the faith. So you can be a defender of the faith. You're the person who stands out and talks out about the faith to defend it. That would then Saint Michael could be an emulator for you, somebody who takes a stand for the faith. Okay. There's a lot of different ways, and that's why I said you really got to do some research into the name and who it is to pick somebody that's talking to you. Let God guide you on this. Let the Holy Spirit guide you. Okay? If you open up to it, He'll show you the path that you need to follow. Which is why, don't pick one tomorrow. Don't pick one Sunday. You know? Maybe wait. You got until Easter Vigil. Well, actually, she may make you turn it in Tuesday or Wednesday. Just so that we can...
And we'll help you too. Like if you're thinking like, oh, there's a saint I really want, you know, I'm thinking like St. Maximilian Kolbe's an amazing saint from World War II that died in a concentration camp. But he wasn't a saint because he died. It's because the life he lived ended up being that he died for the faith. So
Yeah,
it's
and the
not
fact
just that he died, but right? Is that?
Well, it's not just that he died, but he sacrificed himself for another man to live. They were randomly picking people to be killed that day, and they picked a guy who Maximilian knew had children. So he said, don't take him, take me instead. So he sacrificed himself so that that man could live. And he ended up living through the concentration camp 4 years. A great story also, him. I don't think he was a saint. I don't know. But that man lived through and was a big Catholic supporter after the war too. So that's what I mean. Find somebody. So he's not a saint because he died. He's a saint because he gave his life up for someone else. Any other questions, comments? Good questions, all of them. And if you have someone that you want to know, like I said, you have a question about it, would this be a good guy? I'm trying to choose between these three or these two. Which one do you think fits you better? Talk to one of the clergy. Talk to Emily here. Talk to Chris. They're really good. They know all this stuff. She can help guide you on that. Anything else? Questions, comments? I said I'm just going to leave this on the shelf for right now over here. We can turn in your books. Anybody wants to borrow, you can. If you don't like actual paper, don't take it. It's all online. I'm a touchy-feely guy. I like to have that book in my hands. Anything else you want? I'm done, unless you guys got something.
Well, I think in my notes, I'll send a reminder about the saint piece. In the next little email I'll send out, just to remind you if you, for some reason, this kind of pops in and out. But it is important. I'm glad we were giving you more heads up than the vigil.
Then I have. Yeah, that's why I mentioned it in every class. Don't forget your saint, because I did. I didn't even know we had to choose one. By the way, I may give some grief to my wife about that too. But yeah. So she rushed out and bought me a St. Daniel statue from Generations, like Monday. Still got it on my bedside. Okay, if there's nothing else, how about we end in prayer?
Yes, well, let's definitely, how about in Our Father and 10 Hail Marys? Kind of leading up to the deck of the rosary. Are you up for that? We have a few minutes. We haven't said a deck of the rosary yet, and I think it's good.
Okay.
We're getting better at Our Father and Hail Mary, so it's coming.
Okay. We know how it goes. I start and you guys respond to me when I stop, right? This is the recitation of the Our Father. So we begin in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven.
Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil.
Gotta count to 10. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
The Lord be with you. And may the blessings of our Almighty God, our Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit come down upon you and be with you. Amen. Yeah. Yeah, I cheated. I don't know. The people in front saw I pulled out my rosary ring so we could count to 10.
I will make sure to connect you if you have
So I like wrote it.
I'll take it over right now.
Thank you, Deacon.
You're welcome.
Okay,
Say
yeah,
hey
so
to
you did contact Jen.
your wife will say it.
I will. She
So,
hit the road for the weekend. I'll be joining her tomorrow.
You don't mind being my friend.
no, of course not. I don't have a
Thank you
Facebook.
again.
Because you're too like young cool.
It was just my education, but I don't want to.
Yeah, I'm glad I didn't get
Yeah. Tried to make it part of it, and it like wasn't. Like I tried really hard.
Oh,